Let me first introduce the groups that are involved in organizing. So first off, there's the Groningen Feminist Network. We will also talk about this at the very end. So if you don't know, you'll meet people and you'll get to know the groups. There's the Women's March Groningen. There's International Socialists Groningen. And there's a lot of other volunteers that have organized, for example, in the Poland demo. I don't know if you were there. Give it up for them too. Yeah. So tomorrow is International Women's Day. I mean, sure. And today we want to talk about gender-based violence. Gender-based violence affects a lot of people, a lot of different people, so we're happy to give a stage for diverse voices that will all talk about different ways of how gender-based violence has affected them or has affected others. And yeah, first off, Alexandra will read a speech it was prepared by someone else, by Shana actually, and it's about the rape law in the Netherlands. Before I start, I need to also say that content warning, there's gonna be, the speeches will be about violence, they might involve mentions of rape, sexual abuse, assault, oppression, a lot of different, maybe traumatic topics. So feel free if it's too much for you, if you don't want to hear it, close your ears, maybe leave. Yeah. Okay, now let's give it up for Alexandra and Shayna.
Hi, thank you everyone. If you see me shaking, I'm very cold. Might also be because I'm a little bit nervous, but yeah. So, in the Netherlands, 1 in 5 women have had someone penetrate their body unwanted. 1 in 5 women. Think about that for a minute. If you're lucky enough to not be in that group, you definitely know someone who is. Those are not just numbers. Those are your colleagues, your students, your friends, your family. 1 in 5 women, and people are still not believing survivors. More than half of Dutch women reported that they were not taken seriously when they told someone they were raped. If women report it to the police, the law does not take them seriously. Sex without consent is rape. That seems obvious, right? Sex without consent is rape. But that is not what the Netherlands law says. The law currently states that there must be evidence of coercion or violence in order to be defined as rape. But in most cases, there is no violence. 70% of rape victims freeze in this situation, or they decide not to resist out of fear for the consequences. This is understandable and totally normal. 70%, which is a lot. This means that most rape victims are not supported by the Dutch law and that perpetrators are not punished. If a woman is raped but freezes, instead of fighting back against the perpetrator, the Netherlands does not classify this as rape. This must change. And this is not just a women's issue. About 3% of all the rape in the Netherlands is also affecting men. But due to toxic masculinity, men are not taken seriously when they report being raped. In the media, this is played for laughs, but rape is not a funny issue. It's so bizarre that we even have to say that, but men being raped is not funny. And men, like women, like trans people, like gender non-conforming people, and like everyone else, deserve to be protected by a law that recognizes rape for what it is. Rape. Sex without consent is rape. If someone doesn't say yes to sex, it's rape. If they say no, it's rape. And if they say nothing at all, it is rape. Today we call on Dutch politicians to ensure that a law is passed as soon as possible that calls all sex without consent what it is: rape. Say with me, only yes means yes. Only yes means yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you, Shayna, for writing this speech. Next up, we have Tammy Blue. She's a poet, a writer, a mother, who will perform some English and Dutch poems. Yeah, let's welcome Tammy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with a little speech. Yeah, okay. And I want to dedicate my presence to my niece, Amira. She's going to turn 10 tomorrow on Women's Day. And I'm so glad to be an inspiration to her, because she's also an inspiration to me to be a greater human being, woman, and just overall person. First, I want to also share that I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I have been abused for over 4 years by my partner. Is also the father of my child, and it's also a difficult it's a difficult thing to heal from. But I have healed, and I'm standing here today. And so I want to share a lot of the parts that healed me. A little insight in what womanhood has brought me. I have been loved by a woman, been raised by women, shared experience with my sisters, having smart and loving nieces, being a mom, and having a daughter who I teach every day to love herself a little bit more. Being a woman, or a woman of color, or if you consider yourself as a woman, or if you are overall connected with the feminine energy that makes you more than a word itself. Being a woman teaches me how to create when there's no hope. Waking up in the morning with inner worries and still make the people around you smile. Being a woman teaches me to cook when the fridge is nearly empty, believing in myself when nobody else does. And I cannot blame anyone but to move on each day. Feminine energy is a force that lives deep within. She speaks her truth even though nobody believes her. She stands up for herself even though nobody understands her. She keeps her head up high when she wants to break down. The feminine energy is soft but resilient. It's nurturing but receptive, aware of what is needed in a world of chaos. And is always in harmony with the masculine energy, working as one force. And mind you, I'm not talking about gender. It's a feeling, and it connects us all as one. Okay, thank you. So I have 3 short poems, 2 in English and 1 in Dutch, for the Dutch people also. I'm also Dutch, you know. So here it comes. And the first one is Depth of Endlessness. Depth of endlessness. Leading paths to nothing. The meaning of the knowing knowledge, it led to distance and made it stop growing. Kept the warrior silent. Seeing it and still don't know. Dying slow while running down this sparkle called life. Sharing grief from passing lights. Keeping it all in ourselves. Daylight made nights seem like treasures. Save us. out of this inner war. Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm gonna share a Dutch poem from my. I wrote a book last year, so I'm gonna share this little poem and then the first one to finish it off. And it's called Maanlicht. Dus de cyclus van emoties, rotatie van oneenigheid. Het maanlicht schijnt licht op ons bestaan. Kijk op en laat haar energie naar binnen gaan. Vol of nieuw, elk fase heeft een bezinning. Van loslaten naar planten van een zaad. Waar je op vertrouwt op wat er komen gaat. Waar creatie begint en levensvocht zich losmaakt. Maken we deel uit iets groots. Het maanlicht schijnt op gebreken, de eiersprong mystiek en schoon. Droger dan droog. En wanneer heb jij voor het laatst naar het maanlicht gekeken? And this is the last one. And I was very inspired. This inspired the healing process of what healed me to be standing here today. And it's called Late Blossom Bloom. Flying high up to the halo drift, I was swept away by the wholeness of balance. Silently, I awaken every breath. My mind wanders into my body, purging to make room, realizing it all begins in the womb. I am gonna let transformation flow into the midst of the late blossom bloom. Thank you for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Next up, our speaker is Emma. She's an activist, she's a student. No? Yes, you are. She's a feminist, and she's a steering committee member of the Groningen Feminist Network. Take it away, Emma.
Thank you, Haylene, and thank you so much for organizing this. Yeah, my name's Emma, and I just have a few things I'd like to say. So, since the pandemic began, domestic violence rates across Europe have risen 25%. This is on top of the already startling statistic that 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence, and 1 out of every 3 women are victims of either sexual or physical abuse in their lifetimes. Unfortunately, these numbers don't capture the full atrocity of gender-based violence, because not everyone who experiences domestic violence calls a hotline, and not everyone who is a victim of gender-based violence is a woman. What these numbers too do capture is the abhorrent scale of the problem. They speak to the regularity of incidences which we are conditioned to believe are irregular. They speak to the system which perpetuates and encourages violence against women and gender non-conforming people, because our very existence is a threat to the patriarchal system of power. They speak to the extent to which women and gender non-conforming people are ignored, the extent to which our experiences are invalidated, and our suffering made a trinket of society. To this, the numbers speak. But to the fear and anxiety which comes with living under the threat of violence, the numbers can offer only silence. For this, we must turn to our memory, or for the lucky amongst us, our imagination. I, and I'm sure other members of the audience, can conjure with great clarity the swell of desperation in our chest when we're being followed home by someone at night, or when we return home to our abuser. The racing heart, the perspiring brow, the darting thoughts begging us to prevent the worst. Gender-based violence as a tool of oppression works brilliantly, for with it comes not only the lived experience, but the fear that lurks and scurries through the recesses of the mind. It is this fear that induces us to be silent, to be easy, to be satisfied that we are not dead on the street. But enough is enough, and it has been enough for a very, very long time. I refuse to be an instrument of my own complicity. I refuse to be a tool of my oppression. And I encourage everyone here to accept that same responsibility. May we be loud when it is uncomfortable. May we forgo gratitude for being treated with basic human dignity. And may we demand changes in behavior instead of accepting empty apologies. Most importantly, may we act always to make our own murders more difficult. We deserve to live free from fear, free from shame, and free from violence. Thank you.
Yeah, let's give it up for Emma one more time. Okay, it's time for some chants now. Do you have a chant list? They're also on our Facebook event, so you can also look up at the Facebook event if you don't know the words. Are you ready? Yeah. Woo! I'm just making sure. We're going to be loud, yeah? Okay. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Gender violence has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Gender violence has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Gender violence has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Gender violence has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Slut shaming has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Slut shaming has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Misogyny has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Misogyny has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. Louder. Ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. Ho, ho. Patriarchy has got to go. When women's rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When women's rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When queer rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When women's rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When queer rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When refugee rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. That was better. Woo! We're going to do this a few more times, so, we're going to be loud.
So, next up, we're going to have Rike Koch. Sorry for butchering the name, I'm English speaking, but she's been working to prevent gender-based violence throughout her life. She's currently involved in the global network of women's shelters and is on the board of Head Overweg House? Yeah? Thank you. Which is a shelter for women who are transitioning out of prostitution in Groningen. Please welcome Rike. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. A few examples of last week in the news and in my mail. Female Dutch politicians get a lot of hate mails that can be considered as violence against women. One of them gets such mails every quarter of an hour. Femicide is a worldwide problem. UN estimates that at one day, 137 women are murdered by an intimate partner or family member. Imagine. That means 9 women are murdered because of gender-based violence during the time we are having our meeting. My donation to a project in Kenya was spent on sanitary towels. When I asked why, they said that during COVID-19, young girls are more vulnerable for sexual exploitation because they lack money to buy sanitary towels. My colleague in Ethiopia yesterday sent us a desperate mail about the violence and abuse of women during the armed conflict that is again going on there. Worldwide gender-based violence is a huge, but sadly enough, still highly underestimated problem. A lot of women organizations all over the world offer help to survivors, but often their budget is low and seldom enough to help all the women and children that need help. As told in the introduction, I am a board member of the Global Network of Women's Shelters. This network is an alliance of regional and continental networks of women's shelters. A few years ago, we asked ourselves this question: if a woman needs help, what number would you want to give her? Imagine your niece gets threatened and is not safe in her house anymore. A fellow student is studying abroad and tells you she is being abused by her intimate partner. A friend of you had a date during her holiday and calls you after getting assaulted. You wouldn't want to make sure that you have a trustworthy place where you can get information about help for your niece, fellow student and friend. That is why we are creating Lila.help. Lila.help will be a global website where everybody, survivors of gender-based violence, supporting family, friends and professionals, can easily find trustworthy direct help and information of every country in the world. The ultimate goal is, wherever you are in the world, you have access to this website and can find help where and when you need it. If it's ready and safe to use, we want to launch the website at March 15 during the meeting of the United Nations Committee of the Status of Women in New York. We can then start to get information of missing countries. Right now we already have information from over 100 countries. We will also start a GoFund campaign at the same time because it is a costly project. I will send information to your organizations as soon as we get started. Sometimes, when I look at the huge scale of gender-based violence worldwide, I'll feel pessimistic. Can we ever win this battle? But on a meeting like this, I realize that a new generation is already standing on our shoulders to continue the struggle. Thank you for that, and I wish you the solidarity and companionship I still experience from people all over the world dedicated to the same cause.
Sorry, give me 1 second. So next up, we have Rose. They can't be here, but we have a voice recording instead, so yeah. They will talk about sex work in the Dutch context.
Hello, my name is Rose. I am a 28-year-old queer disabled activist from Groningen, and I have something to share with you. For pandemic and privacy reasons, I won't be there to tell you this in person, but it's still important that this perspective and voice be present at a day like this. I have been a sex worker since I was 19. I chose this job, and I love this job. I wasn't forced into it. Being forced is considered human trafficking or sex trafficking. I am going to talk about sex work. I want to share 2 points with you today. I want to share with you why sex worker rights are intersectional, and I want to raise awareness to the current biggest obstacle that sex workers in the Netherlands are dealing with. I'm not a representative, I'm just one voice. I want you to know that sex workers' rights are not just sex workers' rights, but they are fundamental human rights. Being pro-sex work means that you understand that people own their own bodies and are allowed to make their own choices about their bodies. Sex worker rights are also part of the disability justice we are fighting for. It's also trans rights. It's also rights for the undocumented, refugees, homeless, and otherwise marginalized groups. A lot of sex workers belong to these groups, and we need our work to survive. It's an honest job. And it's a way to fend for ourselves, to be our own boss. It's a way to survive when governments don't see our struggle nor provide the essentials for our survival. When you engage in activism, it is so important that your activism be pro-sex work and you stand with sex workers, because it's a group of workers that is facing stigma and is being banned by governments whenever it can. This brings me to the second point. Sex workers need our support now more than ever. Sex work is a contact profession, and in this pandemic, lots of contact professions are already allowed to go back to work, except for sex workers. Even though hygiene and prevention of disease has always been part of our job, we are also one of the only groups of workers that are not legally considered ZZP'ers, so we receive zero governmental support during this pandemic. So how exactly are we supposed to eat right now? Meanwhile, the police is being funded to detain and fine those of us who do work. We are facing homelessness, starvation, death, disease, and our conditions to work in are more and more scary and unsafe. The government does nothing. At the same time, they use this ban on sex work to close the few safe brothels that we have left in the Netherlands, because brothels also don't receive funds to cover the mortgages. So after this pandemic, we will be forced to work in even more remote places, which will be more dangerous for us. Some of us try to work online, but sex work online is also made harder and harder. Censorship by Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, platforms we all help build up. Payment methods won't accept money earned by sex workers. Things like PayPal, Patreon, OnlyFans are platforms we helped build. They exist because of us, and now that they're rich enough, they turn against us and cast us out. Where are we supposed to work? I urge you to look into pro-sex work activism. I urge you to stand with us. Being against sex work also means you are actively fighting against disabled people, trans people, homeless, refugees, and the undocumented. I cannot express this enough. Thank you for listening.
Hi, so next on we have Verena. She's a doctor and is an assistant professor for migration and integration of ethnic minorities at the University of Groningen, where she also leads a working group on diversity. She's a member of the women's group Lenin, a mother and a feminist by heart. Please welcome Verena.
Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many people. I'm really moved. The title of my speech is Male is Not the Norm. And I'm standing here because I recently had a conversation with my almost 4-year-old daughter. And we were talking about what she should do if she would get lost, like in a city. And I instinctively told her she should look out for a woman and not a man and ask her to help her. And while we were having this conversation, I got really sad, because I've just been telling a 4-year-old that men are a threat. And it was sad for two reasons. First, I don't want to perceive men as threat, and I don't want to tell this to my 4-year-old daughter. I know too many wonderful men in the world. But second, I had the feeling that I was speaking the truth, and that indeed we still live in a society where women have to be careful when interacting with men. In Western Europe, we're really quickly pointing towards other cultures, other countries when it comes to women's rights and women's violence. And we are told that we are lucky because we live in a country where we have a functioning democracy, a functioning legal system, where we're allowed to vote, we're allowed to speak our mind. And this is such a twisted way of perceiving women's roles in society. It is twisted because, first of all, it assumes that we should be thankful. We should be thankful for being able to speak our mind. We should be thankful for being able to vote. But why should we be thankful? Are men thankful? No. Because they take their rights for granted, and so should we. But it's twisted even more for a second reason. Namely, that we still live in a country which is not a safe place for women. And it's particularly not safe for them, where it should be the most safe place, right, where it's home. And we already heard this quite often today. 25% of women experience at least once in their lifetime sexual or physical abuse. And almost every day, a woman in the Netherlands gets killed by the hands of her partner. Sorry. Here. There are many reasons for these disturbing numbers. And they often have to do with failed policy making, gender bias in legal institutions, direct, indirect sexism, you name it. However, one common denominator of all these mishappenings is that we still live in a society where we differentiate between two genders and where one gender is more worth than the other. Where the male gender is the norm and the female gender and any other gender is the deviation. It is a man's world, and it is most visible in our language, how we are naming things. We speak of the national football team, but of the female national team. We speak about scientists, but about female scientists. Now you know where I'm getting at. Unfortunately, for way too many people, this seems to be a minor issue, but its consequences are severe. By verbally proposing that men are the norm, our language is both a symptom and a cause of marginalizing women and their experiences in our society. There are many examples, and I will just name a few. Road safety. The large majority of car crash tests are still conducted with male representing dummies only, because car designers do not know how female body reacts to car crash. Women involved in a car crash are 47% more likely to be seriously injured and 17% more likely to die. Healthcare is designed for men. Women are still largely excluded from medical research because their hormonal system is too complicated. Women are getting diagnosed significantly later for serious diseases such as heart attacks or cancer, which has detrimental consequences for the recovery or even survival. A domain which you all might be most familiar with is the workplace. Female-dominated workplaces such as education or healthcare are underfinanced, resulting in a gender wage gap. And even in work domains which praise themselves to be gender blind, such as the university, your gender still defines your chances of success. Women in academia are still less likely to acquire full professorships. Female academics are more negatively evaluated by their students than male academics. And things go really downhill once you become a mother. Mothers keep on cutting down their working hours, taking on a large share of the childcare, whereas men follow their career. And many still want us to make believe that this is a consequence of personal choice, that women want to stay home with their children, gladly give up on the demanding work. The story our employers do not tell us is that workplaces are still designed for men and their needs, and not for women, and certainly not for mothers. To take again the example of the university, which likes to think that success is purely a consequence of talent. Female academics report to have been kicked out of projects while being on maternity leave, and report to have loosened valuable time due to the lack of compensation for the time they spent home with their newborn child. Because the world is designed for men and their needs, it does not come to people's mind that women's needs are different. And many, many places in our society simply do not accommodate our needs. So how are all these examples linked to today's topic, gender-based violence? Well, as long as the male gender is the norm and the female is the deviant, women's voices are less heard and their needs will not be met. Women will continue to be not taken seriously when reporting sexual or physical assault. Women will continue to look for the blame in themselves. Governments will continue to underfinance women's shelters. Society will continue to show a blind eye towards hatred specifically targeted at women and other minority genders. Society will continue to smile at locker room talk. Boys will be boys. So I urge everyone of us to give women and everyone who does not identify with the male gender the room in the society which we deserve. Let us listen carefully and ask questions when the woman applies that she has experienced violence. Let us help her. Let's not stay silent or laugh along when friends or colleagues make sexist jokes or even jokes about rape. Let's keep pointing toward gender equality. Let's keep asking difficult questions about legal procedures which still affect women negatively. Let us educate our daughters and sons that female sexuality has the same right as male sexuality. And I want to end with a quote from Carolina Perez: "For the women who persist, keep on being bloody difficult." Thank you.
So, next up, we have Susanna. She's a law student and activist, and we'll talk about the abortion ban, and the violation of the rule of law in Poland.
Thank you. Since 2016, Poland has been struggling with continuous breaches of fundamental democratic principles. The rule of law, the legal basis of the whole society, has been put in jeopardy. Now, you may wonder how this all affects the women's rights, how it is connected to abortion rights. And I'm here to tell you. I would first like to talk to you about the background of the abortion ban that came into force little less than 2 months ago, on January 27th. Since 1993, so for nearly 30 years, abortion could be legally obtained in 3 cases. 1, serious threat to the life or health of a mother, rape or incest, or in cases of serious and irreversible damage to the fetus. Even under this law, there was barely any space for the free will of the women, for their right to decide on their bodies. Neither difficult living conditions or any other social grants were taken into consideration. But shouldn't that be a case? We all know how demanding bearing a child is. A woman is then bound to take a full responsibility of her child for at least next 18 years of her life. And pregnancy is only a start here. It's like being forced to take a 20-year-long mortgage without your consent, a huge loan that you have no money to pay off. No bank would give you such a loan if you don't have money to pay for it, and definitely wouldn't force you to do so. Then why we have more to say about getting a mortgage than about deciding on our own bodies? No one says that you can't have a child if you don't want to, if you want to. But if you don't, for whatever reason, you shouldn't be forced to. Being a parent is a full-time job. And although it's extremely rewarding, it comes with a great responsibility.
And it is up for the women to decide whether they want to take up this responsibility. Some may never want to, and that's perfectly okay. We all should have a right to decide, the right to self-determination, to decide on our bodies, to decide on our future. Now in Poland, women cannot get an abortion even in the case of serious and irreversible damage to the fetus. The Chief Justice, Julia Przyłębska, wrote in the January ruling that the previously existing abortion law is contrary to the Polish constitution. The previously existing abortion legislation, one of Europe's most restrictive, was incompatible with the Polish constitution. After the ruling went into effect, abortion is now only permissible in the case of rape, incest, or a threat to mother's life and health. And those cases make up for only 2% of all legal terminations of the abortion. It means that the remaining 98% of women are now, because we're talking about real women, they are left alone with their traumas and their problems. Making an abortion is not always an easy choice. But when a woman is refused her right to decide, forced to give birth to a child that she knows she will die soon after, just tell me, is that easy for her? Through her pregnancy, she's forced to carry a child that she knows will suffer after being born. Restrictions on abortion are not pro-life. They are pro-suffering. They are only extending the unnecessary suffering. But how did that all happen? The judiciary in Poland is no longer independent from the government. The changes in the appointment of the judges, especially in the Constitutional Tribunal in Poland, had a major impact on the abortion ban. But how can courts be independent if the ruling party, with its own political interests, decides who are the members of those courts? What we do expect from the courts is independence, impartiality. We should be tried by the judges that are ruling by the principles of justice, not by their political beliefs. This is especially in the case on the Constitutional Tribunal. They should guard the accordance of every stage, every governmental decisions with the fundamental principles and rights that are established in the Constitution. Such an important task demands an independent judiciary. Otherwise, the most important document for the whole nation becomes a mere declaration, not a protection against the state powers. Right to abortion is a human right. If there's no justice in the Polish courts, there's no justice for the Polish women. Thank you. In that case, if the issue of the judiciary in Poland is close to your heart, come to the scene after the protest and leave some contact information to you so we can get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susanna. We're doing a few more chants. How's the level of energy here? Okay. My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
Your body, your choice.
Your body, your choice.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
Your body, your choice.
Your body, your choice.
Whatever we wear, wherever we go, yes means yes and no means no.
Wherever we wear, wherever we go.
Yes means yes and no means no. Whatever we wear, wherever we go.
Yes means yes and no means no.
Wherever we go, whatever we wear.
Yes means yes and no means no.
Can I get another applause? I need more energy. When women's rights are under attack, stand up, fight back. When women's rights are under attack,
Stand up, fight back.
when women's rights are under attack.
Stand up, fight back.
Give it up for yourself. I don't know why I left. Okay. Next up, we have Alexandra speaking. She's one of the chairwomen of Women's March Groningen. She will talk about her own experience of abuse and rape. So give it up for Alexandra.
This is not going to be very easy, but nothing really is. Anyways, here it goes. Age 16, not a girl, not yet a woman. Setting, house party, majority all men. Him, on his late 20s, his party. Alcohol, way too much for my liver to endure, but still, kept drinking to look cool. Come on, I'll show you the house, he says. I let him grab me by the hand and take me inside. He drags me to a bedroom. Bedroom is dark. It's dark and cold. It's dark and cold. I'll turn the lights on so that I can see you, he says. Shortly after, he starts kissing me. I want you so much, he says, trying to undress me. I'm on my period. I lie so he stops trying. He clearly doesn't care. Gets my clothes off. I tell him no and stop repeatedly. When he takes my panties off, I shut down. I can't move. I can't speak. It's dark and cold. It's dark and cold. Age 21, studying my bachelor's in a foreign city. Him, 27. I met him at his cousin's party. What started as a passionate affair turned into a sour memory. Gaslighting, mind games, isolation, insults, depreciation, screaming and shouting. Were too hard to endure, but even harder to get away from. The harder I try, the bigger the consequences. Slaps, punches, grabbing me and pushing me around in public. Took me 2 years to walk away and never look back finally. Age 23, almost done with my bachelor's. Him, 23, considers himself a feminist ally and will repeatedly tell me. Setting, house party. At this point, this is getting too repetitive, I must admit. Alcohol, not much. I have a migraine. He's drunk, though. The look in his eyes changed the moment we were alone in a room. His shouts were muffled by the music outside. He chokes me and throws me to the bed. He lands on top of me. I knee him in the crotch. He headbutts me, opens the door, and calls me a whore so loud everyone hears. I break down. The moment he takes the plane back to his country, I feel relieved. I am free. For many years I lied, and I was quiet about this topic, as I didn't want anyone to consider me a victim. I didn't want their pity. By raising my voice today, I am reclaiming my power. Let's break the stigma around abuse. Let's hold them accountable. This is my story, but it could very well be my mother's, my sister's, my classmates, my family's, or any of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexandra, for being so vulnerable. Next up, we have an audio from Marina from Abortion Network Amsterdam, an organization that supports people in need of an abortion in difficult life situations.
In Abortion Network Amsterdam, we work a lot around gender-based violence. Lately, we had to work extra hard because of the new abortion law restrictions in Poland. On October 26, 2020, the Polish court ruled abortions for fetal abnormalities anti-constitutional. Within the first 48 hours after this ruling, we had 7 people contact us. And even though we don't ask what the reason for abortion is, some of the clients said that the reason was fetal abnormality, and we suspect the same for the rest. Luckily, this law was not published in the Penal Code of Poland for a long time, and local organizations made sure that the procedures for fetal abnormalities would still happen in Poland. However, the law finally got published on 22nd of January, and ever since we've been as busy as ever. Since then, we had 66 people contact us, and 21 cases are still pending at the moment. A lot of the cases have to do with fetal abnormalities. We do our best to help everyone who contact us and are working closely with sister organizations in UK, Germany, and Poland with a network we set up called Abortion Without Borders. Solidarity really knows no borders in this network, and it's been an amazing experience to work closely with organizations providing mutual aid in reproductive justice to everyone who needs it. But it's also very clear that we are a band-aid for a much bigger problem. We're offering a solution to individuals who live in a country that has been affected by a wave of conservative, patriarchal, religious fundamentalist politics. And we're lucky enough to live in a country where the laws are more liberal, similarly constantly under threat. The Netherlands is at this point the only country in the EU offering abortion up to 22 weeks on demand. And there are only 2, I repeat, 2 clinics that provide abortion for clients over 18 weeks of pregnancy. Yet abortion is still in the Penal Code of the Netherlands, and only recently the controversial 5-day waiting rule has been voted to be abolished. Abortion is a hot topic and is under threat here just like in most other countries. No other medical procedure has so much controversy, debate, and opinions on it as abortion. In the end, this comes down to who owns women's bodies, who gives people with uteruses official permission to abortion. We all know that prohibiting abortion does not mean that it will not happen in that particular country. It means that it will continue happening, just in much unsafer conditions, and will be more available to people with more privileges, like wealth, color of skin, etc. By prohibiting abortion, you do not stop it from happening. You put people who need it in a more vulnerable position. You make people make risky choices, pay more money, and have more stress. We are here to reduce the stress factors as much as possible and offer some kind of safety and a solution. But as long as we live in patriarchy, as long as religious fundamentalists and right-wing is in power, we will continue being a band-aid. And we want to be the solution. Our hope is that organizations like ours will become obsolete in near future, where everyone who is in need of a safe abortion will be able to get it legally and on demand, no matter where they reside. Reproductive justice for all.
Next up is Imke. She's also in the board of the Women's March, and she will tell us, or she will give an ode to women.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. I would like to share with you a short poem that I wrote in light of today. With this poem, I would like to express my gratitude to feminism. It is an ode to women, so to speak, so here goes. Barrels only contain crabs if let. Ceilings of glass can be broken. Woman is more than a prefix to man. Change comes from unity. Unity is what we see here today. I love to see it. Let us choose to challenge. Women, loving, lovely, loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Imke. Next up, we have Sissy Joan. She's a spoken word artist and singer. She will present a poem about feminism, mansplaining, and getting a seat at the table. Give it up.
Hello. I was in the shower and I was singing to myself some empowering songs about being a woman. So I first sing a part of Alicia Keys and I slightly changed the lyrics for you today. So I'm gonna do that first. For all my sisters fighting for better days to come. Yeah, all my sisters sitting here trying to make a change for all of us. Yeah, all my women coming together. Say yes, I will. Yes, I can. 'Cause I am a superwoman. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I put on my vest. I demand some respect with an S on my chest. Oh, yes, I'm a superwoman. Thank you. So this poem is in Dutch. It's about mansplaining and tone policing. So I hope most of you will understand it. Bobo, mag ik ook een zetel, ja of nee? Moet ik dan wat witter wezen, ja of nee? Bobo, mag ik ook een zetel, ja of nee? Moet het een x minder wezen, ja of nee? Van sommige mannen word ik extra feministisch. Je weet wel. Mannen die mij vertellen hoe de wereld in elkaar steekt. Mannen die mij geen ruimte geven te praten. Me vertellen hoe ik me moet gedragen. Me van advies voorzien, zonder naar mijn kennis, ervaring of cv te vragen. Me uitdagen, terwijl ze me ook zonder seksueel getint bijvoeglijk naamwoord zouden kunnen benaderen. Van die mannen die zelfbenoemd zeker feministisch schat zeggen when we're talking business. Of wat kijk je lief? Van die mannen die weten hoe ik ben. Van die mannen die niet geloven dat hij zo is, omdat hij hem kent. Dude, zo doet hij niet tegen jou. Jij bent geen vrouw. Van sommige mannen en vrouwen word ik extra intersectioneel feministisch. Je weet wel, degene die kiezen voor donker-wit, poster girls en boys, want die stellen geen moeilijke vragen, maken dankbaar gebruik van de diversiteitshype. Ik zie ze niet verbinden, maar wel innen en enkel voor zichzelf de tokenfakkel dragen. Van sommige mannen word ik extra feministisch. Je weet wel, die man die niet wil zien dat buiten zijn intieme kring, buiten zijn zetel aan tafel, vele vrouwen onbekroond daadwerkelijk het volk behagen. De man die bewust verzuimt gearticuleerde vrouwen aan het woord te laten. Voor je het weet breken haar woorden zijn status. En is er sprake van toonpolicing. Boehoe, we luisteren niet meer, want haar toon is zo onaardig. Terwijl zij kalm, beheerst en objectief blijft praten. Het schijnt in de praktijk lastig te zijn een vaardige vrouw met visie van een denkbeeldig aanrecht naar een stoel aan tafel te halen. Van sommige mannen word ik extra feministisch. Die man die in zijn honger naar cash, bewustzijn van privileges en historisch besef skipt voor zijn persoonlijk succes, bewegend in slechts vastgeroeste mannencultuur, zonder zijn community te dragen. Het schijnt in de praktijk lastig te zijn om terug te geven of zwarte bladzijden te bespreken, wanneer degene in de spreekstoel lekker zit en gelijkheid voor hem gelijk staat aan verlies en plaatsmaken. Van zulke mannen word ik extra feministisch. Like, what the fuck? Wat is dit? Is het niet van belang omdat zijn toekomst niet beter kan? Er is maar één vraag. Voor deze man. What about je moeder?
Thank you. Let's give it up again for Sissy. Our final speaker for today is Emmy. Emmy is a member of the International Socialists, and they will talk about violence against trans and gender non-conforming people. Let's give it up for Emmy.
Hi everyone, like Kaylin said, I'm Emmy from the International Socialists, and I want to speak today about trans and gender diverse perspectives and also about capitalist exploitation, right-wing oppression and movement building. Each year on the 20th of November, we come together to honor the trans and gender diverse people who have been murdered each year. Trans and gender diverse people experience immense gender-based violence, but the domestic abuse and homicide experienced by this group is not solely an individual problem perpetrated by individual transphobes. European colonial oppressors prohibited non-Western expressions of gender among indigenous populations. In the UK, where I'm from, it used to be compulsory to wear at least 3 items of clothing designated to the gender you are assigned at birth. And until 2014, trans people in the Netherlands were forced to be sterilized in order to transition. This is without even mentioning the violence faced by trans people in the healthcare system and at the hands of the cops, the immigration system, and the prison system. The gender-based violence faced by trans and gender diverse people is structural, established by colonial and right-wing governments. Gender-based violence is enacted by the state every day. We can see this in the anti-abortion legislation being enforced in Poland and in Trump's rollback on trans and LGBTQ rights, as well as here in the Netherlands. Dutch law currently requires proof of coercion for something to be classified as rape. The leader of the FVD, a right-wing political party actually running in the current elections, has stated that women secretly desire to have sex forced upon them. We need to recognize that gender-based violence will never be eradicated under right-wing governments. Neither will it be eradicated under centrist neoliberal governments like the VVD. Capitalism is the perpetrator of gender-based violence too, held up by centrist governments focused on profit. The growth of capitalism initiated the structure of women as housewives while their husbands went to work. But even as workers, women are being exploited and subjected to violence for their labor. Sweatshop workers, mainly women and girls of color in the global south, are working under exploitative and harmful conditions to make cheap t-shirts with feminist slogans on them. Having female CEOs will never liberate women, as the workers below continue to be exploited. In the global north, women are being structurally underpaid in relation to men, yet they also have to pay an average of $82,000 more in their lifetimes than men as a result of the pink tax, where items marketed to women are priced higher. This is how capitalism works, and this is violence. The gains that women and trans and gender diverse people have achieved under capitalism were not simply handed down. From voting rights to anti-discrimination laws, each victory has had to be hard fought for. And we're seeing these same governments repealing this legislation. Relying on the government can only get us so far. At the same time, we are seeing oppressive movements gaining strongholds, like trans-exclusionary so-called feminists in the UK and anti-LGBT groups in Poland. During the recent riots against the curfew in the Netherlands and in the annual anti-Zwarte Piet protests, we see fascist violence and even Nazi symbolism firsthand. This is why we need to build a strong, united movement based on solidarity against gender-based violence, against transphobia, against racism, against financial exploitation, and against all forms of oppression. Nothing unites us more than common struggle. Tomorrow is International Women's Day, a day that was actually initiated under the name International Working Women's Day, inspired by striking women and socialist women like Rosa Luxemburg. It's not only a day of celebration, but a day of struggle. I hope events like this today invite people to participate in feminisms that critically engage with the society that we live in, that question systems of oppression like capitalism. Kinds of feminism that realize it is not enough to empower white, cis, upper-class women in the global north, but that the true liberation in society lies in the liberation of the working class and working class women in all their diversity around the world. Angela Davis taught us that feminism must involve consciousness of capitalism and the struggle against it, because capitalism is unable to create a decent life for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmy, for this final speech. We'll do another round of chants. Hope you're all ready. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Louder, the people united will never be defeated. 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 Woo! Okay, we're doing something more complicated. The people that know this, carry on. Power to the people. Power to the people. 'Cause the people got the power. 'Cause the people got the power. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you hear it? Getting louder by the hour. Getting louder by the hour. Power! 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 Power to the people. Power to the people. 'Cause the people got the power. 'Cause the people got the power. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you hear it? Getting louder by the hour. Getting louder by the hour. Power! 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 Power to the people. Power to the people. Woo! We'll do a few more. I think the energy is going up. Feminist and radical against the state and capital. 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 Feminist and radical resistance is transnational. Feminist and radical resistance is transnational. Feminist and radical resistance is transnational. Yeah, we gotta practice that a bit. No girl boss, no CEO. Corporate feminism got to go. No CEO. Corporate feminism has got to go. Okay, that's complicated. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. We have the right to not be scared at night. Okay, finally. Show me what a feminist looks like. This is what a feminist looks like. Show me what a feminist looks like. This is what a feminist looks like. Show me what a feminist looks like. This is what a feminist looks like. Show me what a feminist looks like. This is what a feminist looks like. Woo! Thank you so much. Okay, we're at the end of this. Okay, we had a bunch of different speeches, everyone speaking of different experiences. So now it's really important to think about this. You came here, you took the energy to sit down, listen to these voices, but now it's important that you take this energy and take it in your life. Mobilize. Carry it home. Have uncomfortable conversations with people, but most importantly, come together, because individually, the power is not that much, but the power of the people is when we come together, right? So there's a lot of different organizations in Groningen. So we don't have excuses anymore. We can't say there's nothing going on, I can't do anything. There are organizations. Some of them are partly organizing this. For example, the Groningen Feminist Network, International Socialists Groningen, and Women's March Groningen. But there's also other things. For example, where's Fiona? There is an abortion support group in Groningen, so if you want to get involved in that, do you want to say something about it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So let's give it up for Fiona.
Hey everyone. I'm standing here today on behalf of the Abortion Support Groningen, and I want to let you know, also all the people behind me here who are not part of the protest, there is an abortion support group. So if you or anyone you know is considering having an abortion, or has decided to have an abortion, or you have had an abortion in the past, and you want someone to talk to about this, you can reach us on Facebook. And whether you identify as a woman or not, that's not important to us. We're quite international, and there's quite a few queers in the group, so feel free. Also, if you're not from the Netherlands, we might help. We can maybe help you to navigate the Dutch healthcare system. We can help you with translations of information. We can accompany you as a buddy to the abortion clinic, even if your finances are not covered by the Dutch system. We can contact solidarity funds for you and help you also with the financial part. Just know that you don't have to go through this alone. Also, if you have a partner going through this or other reasons to contact us, forms of support that I haven't mentioned yet, just feel free to contact us. For now, it's just on Facebook. We'll be working to be reachable in other ways as well in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. Also, again, thanks to all the speakers. You made clear that the fight for a better world affects everyone, right? It doesn't just affect cis women. It's not just about abortion rights. It's about being able to determine your own body. So this affects everyone. This affects trans women. This affects intersex people. This affects literally every single person. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. There will be people going around. If you are interested in joining any organization here, or if you just want to be knowing about what's happening in regards to feminism and the fight for a better world, you can sign up, right? Yeah, one of us will be walking around. You can give your details. Yeah. Yeah, we're ending this now. Thank you so much for attending this. Give yourself an applause. This is Susanna. Just look for her. If you want to sign up, please do so. Use your energy. Bye.